The Trump administration's family separation policy didn't come just from the minds of Stephen Miller and Donald Trump, and it required the participation of a number of other individuals and bodies, including obviously the Department of Homeland Security, people at the border, and also in many cases for funding from the big banks. And thankfully, at least one is now signing off from that. And joining us now to talk about that issue is Donna Norton, Executive VP of Moms Rising. Donna, welcome to the Damage Report.
Thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you on, especially to talk about this particular topic. So your group, Moms Rising, has been fighting Trump's family separation policies for some time in a number of different ways. Talk to us about the banks and the influence that they've had over this policy and the updates on that topic.
Well, private prisons are actually housing about 3/4 of the immigrants who are detained by ICE right now under the Trump administration. And the banks actually are lending money to the private prisons that enable them to really expand their ability to build new facilities, to detain more and more immigrants. And so the banks have been part of the problem with the ability of the Trump administration to just continuously expand and detain more and more people. And so we are part of the Families Belong Together coalition, which started after the big uprising of people in the summer when we realized that the Trump administration was separating thousands of children from their parents at the border. And there's about 250 organizations in that coalition. And we, among other things, decided, okay, let's knock off the money behind this policy. And so let's strategically go after some of the major banks that are providing the funding that allows private prisons to expand.
So the most recent update is that JPMorgan Chase is apparently not going to be participating in this anymore. From your point of view and from the point of view of your organization, how important was that particular bank's involvement in this system of financing private prisons?
Well, they have been very important. I believe last year, the private prisons borrowed $1.8 billion. JPMorgan Chase, I think, provided at least $200 million of that. But the really exciting thing is that announcement over the past 2 weeks has triggered other banks to also say that they are exiting relationships with private prisons. So in the last 2 weeks, it started with JPMorgan Chase, but Wells Fargo Bank, which was the second target of the Families Belong Together coalition corporate accountability action, has also said that they're going to exit from private prisons, financing private prisons. And U.S. Bank has also said that they are vastly going to limit their lending to private prisons. So in the last 2 weeks, we've had a huge victory for the grassroots, a huge victory for people using their consumer voices to say, look, we don't want our money going into these policies.
And that's obviously a great development on this issue. It's also a great development that people are starting to take more seriously what banks are doing with their money. And so congratulations on these recent successes. I'm curious, though, the coalition, where do you go from here? What other corporations are you going to be targeting? What's the next phase?
Well, there are 3 other banks that under a 2016 report were shown to be financing private prisons. And so we're reaching out to those banks next. Those include BNP Paribas, U.S. Bank, and SunTrust.
Okay,
and Bank of America. So those are next on the list. Yeah.
And it's entirely possible that many people viewing this might be participating financially with those banks. So this is something that maybe they can think about. And I'm curious, too, you referenced the launch of the big organizing last year. The LA March around that issue was gigantic. From your point of view, how important was public pressure in increasing scrutiny on these banks?
Well, I think that was hugely important for just raising the specter that people really care about immigrants and the Trump administration immigration policies. And that really was a constraint on the Trump administration continuing on that scale to separate children and families. And I think it's also, the banks also realize how important this issue is to their consumers, especially in Black and brown communities, but across the nation. And it's been, I think, a huge just restraint on what's happening. And people need to continue to raise their voices. They need to continue to act with their consumer voices and with their voting voices. The fact that we even have hearings right now on family separation and on the banks has been because we have now the House that can hold those hearings. So both votes and consumer actions are incredibly important, and we are having a difference. I know a lot of people feel like cynical about their ability to change things, but we know when enough people take action together, when enough organizations join together, enough people take action, enough, we had people all over the country go to their banks and deliver letters about their concerns about their bank's investments in private prisons, that we can make a difference. Our voices really are powerful.
And I think that is a great note to end on. So thank you again, Donna Norton, Executive VP of Moms Rising, both for joining us and also for the great successes your organization and the coalition has had in this area.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching this clip from the Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.